afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I see shit. I'm in the mic.
Good start.
Have you guys enjoyed? Have you guys enjoyed all the presentations so far? Oh. What I like as an organizer is I've been running around, you know, putting down some of the bushfires around the corner, and I can still hear the presentations. I can be active. I can talk to people. I can do all these things. I think that's the future of conferences, that you're not stuck, you know, the whole day. I guess that's the deal, what we are talking about here. So my name is Teemu, Arina, and I just brought my colleagues who we are working together with on the BIOHACKER'S Handbook. I mean, introduce yourself, gentlemen.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, my name is Jaakko Halmetoja. I'm more involved in nutrition and, of course, health in general. And I think we met with Teemu something like 3 years ago, first time, by an accident. And it was interesting to see the common grounds that we all played in our own kind of fields. But now it's been a really interesting journey for the past few years to kind of try to extract the important knowledge around these subjects, and really nice to be here today. And
really nice to be
really
here.
Nice to be here today. And Olli was saying that humor and comedy is also really good for your immune system. So I'm hoping that Olli will cover this phase.
Did you know that Jaakko and Teemu were actually my best men in my wedding? My wife, so we come pretty
wedding,
close,
I can say.
And I was also your patient.
Yeah.
I actually was not a patient.
Well, kind of.
I was sort of
yeah, so that's how I met Teemu. He came to my reception or medical appointment, and he actually put all these gadgets and things. That have you heard this quantified self and biohacking thing? And was like, yeah, a little bit. And then we spent like 1.5 hours together chatting. He was fine, like cured himself. So that's how we met.
At all. I only go to doctor when I'm healthy and, you know, in good shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the success of the BIOHACKER'S Handbook has been in Finland phenomenal. We have over 10,000 readers already, and we decided basically to establish BIOHACKER Center that conducts research into optimized human performance and health and well-being, and that involves all these technologies, but we go obviously deeper. And this kind of evidence-based approach to these things is essential. We try to find material that we would be happy with, that we can learn from. And there is a lot of things out there, but we sort of felt it's very scattered around, so we wanted to reorganize the information, repurpose it, go to the studies, really read what's on news or health websites and so on, if that really holds true. And that's the beginning of the BIOHACKER'S Handbook. And I mean, now we are putting the conference together as well. So BIOHACKER'S Handbook is 5 chapters: exercise, nutrition, sleep, mind, and work. And by the way, although this material has been available in Finnish, we now have the sleep chapter available in English. It's going to be sent out next week to anyone who signs up at biohackingbook.com. So tweet that information forward to your friends. It's going to be phenomenal. Ben Greenfield is going to be responsible for the forward of that work. And with all these things, what we are really looking into is like, what is the 20% that results in 80% of results? I mean, we went through the research. We look at what is the research out there that has any kind of hope of actually in your life. And I mean, then we just hand over to you the tools to figure out what is the 20% that works in your case, that results in 80% of results. And we have these 5 chapters in the book, and while working on it, we saw that immunity was something that sort of went across all those chapters, and it demanded its own chapter. So we have a special chapter of that as well, and we're going to focus on this presentation on going and diving deep into immunity, and that's going to span across all the different categories of the book itself: exercise, sleep, nutrition, and so on. And so what do you think about these guys? I mean, we are attacked in our environment constantly by different kind of pathogens. And a lot of health products are sold to support or enhance or improve the immune system. And what do you think of that, Olli, as a medical doctor? I mean,
I think that people need not to be sick. For example, you don't have to have like flu 3 times per year or even more. Or like sinusoidal infections 8 times in a row, then you take antibiotics, because you can affect those, you can affect your immunity in the ways which we go through today. Food, good food, some herbs, basic sleep, stress management, and of course the gut lining, gut microbiome. It's like the most important thing in this equation, in my opinion.
That's kind of the system that we are hacking or focusing on, because that's the essence of our immune system and where most of our immune cells are located. So that's a big thing.
So before we get into any kind of outrageous claims or anything, so let's get the facts straight. I mean, let's talk about the immune system itself. And this might be revealing to some people. I mean, what are we talking about when we are talking about an immune system?
Yeah, that's it's a bit complicated. This is as simple as possibly put, because the immunity has like different parts. It has this innate immunity that you get from birth. It's always on, and you have immediate responses. Think about your skin, epithelial cells, what's happening in your gut, in your stomach pH. It has to be very acidic. How many have you taken these proton pump inhibitors?
Everybody's like excited.
Yeah. Well, they're not good in the long term. Maybe for a few days if necessarily needed. If you take them like many months, your stomach pH, it's gonna go up, and that's gonna affect your immunity. So these are like the basics. Normal bacterial flora, even one antibiotic can destroy as much as 30% of the normal bacterial flora. And it might take 1 to 2 years to replenish it again. So that's like the basic, our innate system which we have. It develops also in the childhood. If you're playing in the dirt, that's good. If you're very sanitized, that's not good. And then there's this adaptive immunity. It's delayed. It's not happening in like hours or even days. It might take weeks. You have this antigen response. You have lymphocytes which specialize in T cells, B cells. Then you have these special T cells which are like cytotoxic. They destroy the cells. And these helper T cells which are actually memory cells. And then you have B cells which produce antibody. So that's like the simplest way to present it. I don't know if you can remember anything of this, but just remember we have 2 different systems which are actually divided also into 2 systems, humoral immunity and cell-mediated.
Yeah. We're going to dive deep into those different aspects of that. So we are all born with immune systems, and we are also born to learn to adapt our immune systems to environmental factors. And we thought that we know how the human body works from a physiological point of view, and this has not been exactly the case. I mean, we're still making discoveries all the time, and the recent one is the fact that the lymphic system actually extends to the brain. I mean, all our school books are, I mean, we need to rewrite these things and replace the images that, hey, there is this system. So as a doctor, how would you like comment on the role of the immune system in the body, I mean, the lymphic system in the body and in the immune system as well?
For me, it has been a little bit funny that why the brain wouldn't have immune system, because of the other organs and all the whole body has. So now that's this year's finding released in Nature paper. So of course we have this in the brain, but people just haven't seen it. So this is going to probably affect, for example, curing Alzheimer's disease, other neurodegenerative diseases, and all kinds of problems in the neurological side.
And there's a big thing why we need to sleep. I think that was one piece of a puzzle that we now know that how our waste products that are produced in brain are transported out from the brain is actually through these kinds of mechanisms, and we didn't know that before. So I found that really fascinating in this sense.
Absolutely. When we look at the different cells in our immune system, there are that can be also split into two different perspectives. The other one is cell-mediated, and the other one is humoral. It's in the sort of outside of cells. And I think when we're talking about balancing the immune system or boosting the immune system, a really good example of a boosted immune system is Ebola. Ebola basically completely compromises the cellular level and overactivates the humoral side of the immune system, so that your own body just kills itself. And I think that's also the case with autoimmune diseases, that our immune system is overactivated. So boosting your immune system is sometimes a good idea if it's not able to respond to things, but if it's just functioning normally, overactivating it in some cases is, the hack that viruses and other mechanisms are basically doing their work.
Yeah. How many have you taken this full blood panel of your cells? How many have you had an answer if you go to the doctor and it's a little out of the range that there's nothing wrong? Many, because I know I did that too. But there are actually different cells, like neutrophils. What does it mean if it's high or low? It means something. What does it mean if it's eosinophils are high or low? They're very simple. We have to just look it in, and then if there are changes, what then? What can we do? Are we gonna search for parasites, or are we gonna search for bacterial infection?
I think a good example is when you get a flu. People go to the doctor's office, and then they sometimes prescribe antibiotics just in case, or they just want to have those things. But it doesn't really work if you have a virus infection. If you have a bacterial infection, that's good. And what you can look at is, for example, C-reactive protein, if those levels are high. And by the way, you can do that at home. You can do that with Medigo, has great products that you can just do the test at home. If you have a flu symptom, you can look at if you have high CRP. If you don't have, probably it's a virus. You shouldn't worry too much. But if you have very high C-reactive protein, inflammation levels, maybe go over and check it and tell them that this is the case.
Yeah, this helps actually to diagnose yourself and then go to the doctor if needed. So these are good steps that you don't always have to go to the doctor to see what's wrong, because you might not get an answer. So get this information, get a little do it yourself idea.
Yeah.
So I think in essence we want a adaptive and really well modulative immune system, not just strong immune system, because that's in many cases not a good thing at all. But these things that are called immunomodulators or so are kind of, I think, in the core of what we want. We want building blocks for our immune system, and I've often talked that many of you, for example, if you go to gym, you know that you need to eat more protein, and that's kind of a fact. That's building blocks for your muscles. But what are building blocks for your immune system? I think that's pretty interesting, because those mechanisms are not so straightforward. They're just providing space for your immune system to modulate itself.
We're gonna jump soon into we have real-time feedback here. Before we jump into nutritional interventions or whatever, let's get the facts straight also in terms of allergic reactions versus immune system reaction.
Yeah. Well, allergic reaction, how hard is it to say allergic reaction? Or with an Arnold, allergic reaction.
No.
My immune system is very active here, yeah.
Now all is warmed up.
Yeah.
We'll continue.
Well, the difference is allergic reaction, it's overactive immune system. You react to different, for example, foods, pollutants, and so on. But the origin might be actually in the gut and in the gut lining. especially if it's leaky gut. The permeability is heightened, and we are going to go there in a couple of minutes, but that's like the main difference.
Yeah. So, thinking of the immune system, we can start looking at the sort of natural resistance that we are building, and we have already there. So that's basically the responsible ones it's mediated by phagocytosis, which is basically cell eating, and recycling parts of cells and just destroying bacteria and viruses and other things, and then recycling those as raw material.
It's like eating, like I would eat.
Yeah, this guy doesn't belong here, so let's eat this guy. We suck him in, and he's gone. It's like
think about it, you have cells that eat other cells and stuff.
Pac-Man cells.
How cool is that?
yeah.
Like Pac-Man.
And we have all those guys, it's on our skins, it's in our stomach lining, it's in all over the body. So we are in a symbiotic relationship with all kinds of mechanisms in our body, and bacteria as well. There is natural bacteria as well, so that is sort of healthy and welcome, which is also helping us to aid in the immune system, aid the immune system in its work.
What happens if you like go to shower 5 times per day and wash like this off? It gets the good bacteria off, also the good oily skin. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why Jaakko always smells so funny.
Jaakko has this natural smell.
Yeah, thanks guys. I think the good thing to remember that is that, for example, everybody has heard Acidophyllus, which is a strain of bacteria. So where does the name come from? Acid and phyll, so kind of acid lover. So it likes acidic environment, and if we alkalize or hyperalkalize our skin environment, those good bacteria won't survive in there. So that's, I think, the first lining of our immune system is on our skin, in a sense that, like, I'm traveling a few hundred days a year. That's the main focus that I'm also actually using a probiotic soaps and stuff like that to help to collect the good bacteria on my skin. And you can analyze these through uBiome and things like that.
Yeah.
Great.
So
I think we've gone through this.
I think we have pretty much given an overview
versus
of this.
adaptive.
Yeah. Also, we talk about cell-mediated immunity, so the different cells that are involved, and the humoral side of it. Humoral.
Well, the basic difference is that it's either cell-mediated or humoral, which means it's in the liquid or in the plasma.
Yeah.
Antigens and antibodies.
And
Cell-mediated, it's more like these killer cell mastocytes and so on.
And actually one comment to that was this Iceman, Wim Hof, who basically hacked even that system by breathing techniques. So that's something to look after. I think there is so much deeper layers in just breathing exercise, how it can affect these kind of a hard-coded systems even in our body. So Google Wim Hof immune system and you'll find very interesting stuff.
I think we boosted our immune system with Ben's morning exercises. Who was here then?
Yeah.
Wasn't it great? Yeah? Yeah. So there is this certain science, it's called psychoneuroimmunology. So you can affect with your thoughts, with your mind, your immune system and your neurology. That's interesting. Negative thoughts, if you always have negative thoughts, they're gonna go and affect your immune system. You're gonna get sick more easily.
You're stressed out, the presentation is coming up, your stomach is not working, suddenly stomach is compromised, all these things. I mean, it's just a chain reaction of things. So stress, different kind of stress, definitely. Sleep deprivation, poor diet. I mean, even friends and family that are not helping you to grow, but are rather, dragging you down is sometimes an issue for some people. I mean, at your office, sometimes the problem. I don't mean you, but I mean when you treat people, do you think there is always a pill for it, or is it just, you know, changing something in their environment and interactions?
Yes.
Exactly.
Next slide.
Next slide. Yeah. This evening we're gonna have an upgraded party. It's gonna be an amazing party. It's just, you know, a phenomenal party of arts and all these things. And we thought about using alcohol in this party and thought, no, that's not, it doesn't really fit the picture. So we have upgraded cocktails that are gonna get you high in different ways. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that, and hopefully also support your immune system and balance it out a little bit so that you're kicking ass Friday, you know, to go out
Next to the
or
mushrooms,
destroy
that's
yourself
Yeah.
or whatever.
So, you don't have to use your arm, but how many have got autoimmune diseases or problems? Nobody? A few. Yeah, so that's like a sign that for some reason your immune system isn't working as balanced as it could. So it's overreacting to different things. It's different from allergy. But it's there's an explanation. I don't know if you get
Yeah,
anything
somewhere.
from this, but there are like 3 different situations, like normal infection. The T cells go up and then they go down. You recover from it. In an immune deficient state, like in the presence of HIV or a tumor, your immune system goes down. So you don't actually have a good immune system. But in the case of autoimmunity, the memory T cells, they're for some reason very active. So they might react, for example, to gluten or to casein or some other exposures. And they have to do with these effector memory cells. There's this genetic complement of that. It's called HLA. So some people have like genes for celiac disease, like DQ2 to DQ8. So that's bad luck, but you can affect that. And how? We go there soon.
Yeah, I actually have one of these like genetical predispositions to have celiac disease, but I don't have. I'm diagnosed negative. So does that mean that I can eat bread? Well, what I noticed is when I stopped using gluten, my allergies went away. So my immune system was no longer reacting to pollen during the summertime, which is amazing. Like I thought that I'm born like this and this is how I'm gonna live the rest of my life. But removing this one component that was causing low-level inflammations or activating my immune system to overreact to foreign proteins, this is my theory. It was also then overreacting to other things that it considered as outsiders. So yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to just look at your genetics, look at your specific unique case, and I mean, work on the weaknesses and play with the strengths. Exercise is one thing, and we have this idea in terms of exercise that the more is better, and some people exercise like crazy amounts, and the idea in our minds is someone who runs a marathon, or like Ben runs like Ironman triathlons and so on. So
Ben is crazy dude.
Ben is crazy dude, but he's using all the strategies, all the tools in his disposal to really recover from those things and maintain the balance there. Because if you over-exercise, that's one way how you are actually, because exercise basically, you are causing damage to your muscles, and when you cause damage to the muscles, there's all kinds of crap circulating around, and your immune system activates to that. And sometimes your humoral, the parts that is outside of cells, gets overactivated due to exercise, and compromises the cellular level, cell-based immune system reaction, so that you get more easily infections, viruses. You know, you have a flu. If any one of you have friends who exercise a lot and they are sick constantly, so that's like one of these things. So really,
that's
I mean,
typical for
recovery.
like CrossFit practitioners.
Yeah.
Like once a month, week off because you get the flu.
Yeah,
So too much training, not good.
It's one of those that no pain, no gain isn't true. It's no brain, no gain, just pain. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But I think in these types of cases, the hormetic effect is pretty similar, whether it was swimming in ice-cold water, taking a sauna, whatever. You can overdo it, and then it actually is a huge stress for your body. But in kind of dose makes the medicine idea.
Yeah.
That's the whole point also with training.
Yeah.
Over-exercising actually it stresses the HPA axis, which is like the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. So too much cortisol for too long periods of time, that also affects the immune system, especially with the interleukin-10 molecule, which is like responsible for the recognition of like viruses. So if it's not working, you might get the flu and it might last for like 5 to 7 weeks because it's not working.
Yeah. We are diving deep into the relationship of exercise to physical performance and also these details about the immune system in our exercise book, and it's those who have maybe pre-ordered that in Finnish, it's coming out next month.
Soonish.
Soonish. Yeah, when it's done. I mean, we don't compromise any of the stuff that we work on. But sleep. I mean, sleep is the ultimate biohack. I mean, you can do all kinds of things and eat all kinds of things, but if you don't sleep, that's like the ultimate way to hack yourself to death also. I mean, it's like lack of sleep increases inflammation markers, it impairs your immune system function.
Who's talking?
Yeah, it's like it increases blood pressure, sugar consumption. The blood work of someone who has not slept looks like a diabetic, I mean, in a few days. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm more over-exercising than the lack of sleep than many other people, but I also use all kinds of mechanisms for recovery. But I'm not very... Yeah. It's the key thing that I need to work on. By the way, the unhealthiest thing to organize is a health conference.
Or writing a book.
Exactly, yeah, health book. That's even worse.
How about what Jaakko says?
Nothing.
Slept
I'm
well,
just chilling, have fun times, all good.
He never sleeps. I mean, he's like...
Yeah.
That's actually true.
Yeah, it's like overactivated.
Or we don't
brain.
see the difference between sleep and wakefulness.
I mean, there is some, Shaolin monks whose feat is that they don't sleep, because every Shaolin monk, they need to have some kind of thing. One is standing on a finger, and the other guy is not sleeping. So, I mean, you can master these things, obviously, but I wouldn't try it with this one. So we have been taught that 7.5 hours is, the perfect time to sleep. If you sleep less, it increases mortality. If you sleep more than, let's say, 9 hours, that increases mortality as well. But the question is, of course, also about the quality of sleep. Like, what kind of sleep? How much do you get restorative sleep? The stuff that plays with your lymphic system. I mean, the sort of the recycling or the removal of toxic waste usually happens in deep sleep, and that's the first 4 or 5 hours of the night when you're spending most of your time in that state, and then it sort of slowly starts to become much more REM sleep. We need both of those, but the deep sleep is extremely essential as well as REM sleep.
Yeah, it's good that there are also some people sleeping now here, so... yeah, it's good, yeah.
It's
Take
fine.
a nap.
I mean, this conference you can stand or you can sleep, it's fine.
I'm just biohacking.
And there's great companies over there, AimFit, they have a tracker that I've been using now. They also added HRV, so stress can be also measured. One of my key performance indicators as an executive is really to look at the recovery of my nervous system and how I recover from stress and bed it as well. And both companies are amazing. There's also Oura now, the ring that does these things in a well-packaged form. And I mean, you can do all kinds of things, but I would start from the bedroom. I mean, just change the air quality, avoid.
How many thinks this is good air quality here?
It's amazing.
No way. That's why you're getting sleepy. You don't get enough oxygen. And the bench trick, it was actually pretty good to get enough oxygen in your brains.
Yeah.
So this is like the worst, worst air for
That's why I
lecture
recommend
like this.
being active around there. There's
Yeah.
better air.
Or
over
go
there
outside.
with the headphones.
It's actually sunshine over there.
yeah.
Like now.
Maybe we need to cover the walls with nature invention next year. Sleep is the ultimate biohack. There is all kinds of techniques and tricks in the book. Get the sleep chapter. It's going to be sent to you next week.
The book now.
Get it. So let's get into the nutritional aspects. So Hippocrates already said that all disease starts in the gut. Let food be thy medicine,
English?
or medicine be thy food. So, I mean, this is all your expertise. This is the stuff you've been working on, and this is where all your sort of interventions pretty much start from.
Yeah, I invented food.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think in general, most of the people understand that it's not you are what you eat, but you are what you absorb. And that goes along with everything that we do. And that's why I'm really into recommending people things that absorb better, whether it was some kind of a smoothie drink that is kind of processed in a way that is, for example, green leafy vegetables. They're pretty thick, fibrous, hard cell walls to absorb. But if we use technology here as like a blender to break those cell walls down, it absorbs better. Then you add some oils or something to actually make those good fat-soluble ingredients also to absorb better. They're simple things, but I think this is the key focus in everything around making food actually absorb and affect our bodies.
And the surface area to absorb all these things is like several football fields.
No, it's not. It's like a half badminton field, but it's still huge. Yeah.
It's small. I mean,
You're wrong. Well, think about it's like the size of this in your gut, so that's a lot of absorption surface.
so let's damage that with some crap.
Yeah,
foods.
what would we do? Well, let's
Stress.
eat a lot of sugar, a lot of processed oils, a lot of grains, mostly processed, more like additive nutrients, also called nutrients. So that's, well, stress affects also this gut lining.
And I mean, just diagnosing these kind of things, you have some stomach problems and you get some recommendations.
Yeah.
Like, which one would you pick one out of these if you think it's wheat that is affecting you?
So yeah, this is like the scenario when you remove grains or specifically wheat. So you get release for your gastrointestinal symptoms. So what's the root cause? Is it celiac disease, or is it gluten sensitivity, or is it gluten intolerance, wheat allergy, or this FODMAP? Ever heard of FODMAP? A few have. These are fermentable oligo monosaccharides and polyols.
Simply some sugar compound.
But it's actually quite a bit of food that might cause fermentation in your gut, and when you restrict those to 10 grams per day or less, you might get relief from the symptoms. But you would have to take some blood test. But even then, you don't necessarily know what's the problem. So I always say, try it. If you feel better, why would you use it again?
And those things often overlap, so most of the grains are also high in FODMAP, so that might be gluten, might be creatine,
Yes.
might be FODMAPs.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to try that out.
That's right.
Can you put the slide back? This is like from Alessio Fasano's presentation or article. He explains why, for example, in celiac disease, there are 3 things that affect the disease. You would have to have a trigger. In that case, it's the gluten in the wheat. Then you have genetic predisposition. You have Teemu has this HLA-DQ2 or 8 gene. And then you would have to have leaky small intestine. So the gut lining, it's filled with pores. It's not like tight and doesn't have tight junctions that bring the cells together, but it's more like leaky. Then you will have problems.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for thickening those linings
A
up?
lot of things.
A lot of
that's
things.
that's what I do for lecturing for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So well, most simple tracks is fix your diet. For example, remove gluten, remove casein, remove all processed foods. Then introduce some good probiotics. Reduce stress. Have good amount of nutrients. Glutamine, for example, is an amino acid that fix the gut lining.
I mean, colostrum also.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many interventions. I mean, be your own experiment. So balancing
Drink
immune system
water.
function and food and nutrition. I mean, Jaakko, this is your area. Like, what would you eat then? Like, what would be the foods that you would pay attention to?
Well, I would actually emphasize just that, for example, berries, vegetables in general work really well for kind of overall health because they are, for example, excellent prebiotics. So they feed those good bacteria in your gut. And this is actually the conclusion that I've came more and more with also certain types of herbs and all that. They actually modulate our bacteria in our gut, and that makes our immune system modulate itself. So more and more the research is coming up that, for example, if we eat, let's say, blueberries, something like that, the mechanisms under everything are actually that they're modulating the beneficial bacteria that is then affecting many systems, not just, of course, in our immune system, but also our neurotransmitter production and all these really interesting areas that I think most of the people in here are really into.
Yeah.
So in general, what we could say that vegetables, berries, those are a few really good foods as a kind of a prebiotics. So you need probiotics that are the beneficial bacteria, and then you need food for them. So prebiotics.
Yeah.
And berries, for example.
The problem with the probiotics is that it takes 2 weeks and then they rinse off. But they have these immunomodulative effects and they fix the gut lining, but they're usually not staying there. So that's why you need prebiotics to give food for the bacteria.
Yeah. And actually, for example, we wrote at the nutrition chapter that, for example, medicinal mushrooms might be, one of the mechanisms might be that they work as a prebiotics. And now, like a month ago, there was a study published in Nature that actually proved that. And I think that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's more and more in those ways.
So take care of your gut.
Yeah.
If I was
The
Germany,
I was sure that this going to happen.
Gutbrainax.
Good Brainax.
What
Good,
bad
good,
pronunciation
very
of
good.
language can we fit into one presentation?
So what is this?
I mean,
It's good.
It's good. It's good. Good brain. Good brain comes from good gut.
Well, basically it's that you have nervous system here, nervous system here. They communicate. So that's the gut or gut-brain axis. So there are at least as many nerve cells in here as it in here.
I mean, if you feel like you're sort of like brain fogged and you can't think straight, fixing your diet might be one of these interventions that could help. And the thing is that the gut, all the cells in the digestive system, they replenish themselves within a 2-month period or so. So when you change your diet, it takes about 2 months to experience, maybe 4 or 6 weeks to experience if that's having any like significant effect over time. So suddenly after a few months, your brain starts to work again, if that's the cause. Like
I would add here that even a 1-day change in your nutrition is going to affect your gut bacteria.
these guys.
So the change is immediate.
Yeah, in 24 hours you can see the difference.
Now there's Jaakko and Teemu is the blue one over there.
Okay. Which Olli is the one that looks like a poo. Or
I'm the mass.
so you've been analyzing your poo and all. I mean,
Yeah.
we all, I think, have. So I mean, just, if you want to know what's living there, that there is more bacterial cells in your body, 10 times more than there is your own cells. I mean, we are more like made out of these foreign bacterial cells that are based on very different types of DNA than your own. I mean, think about it. You're in a symbiotic relationship with these guys, and now we can study them and we can dive deep into understanding what's living inside of us.
You actually inherit two genomes. The first one is the human genome. The second one is the microbiome that you inherit from your mother. So if you have gut problems, blame your mother.
God,
kidding.
Is this the slide, for that?
Yeah, I just think that when it comes to what to do, then there are pretty easy things that are inexpensive, are actually super easy to make by your own also. So stuff like sauerkraut and just fermented vegetables and all kinds of drink kombuchas and kefirs and stuff like that. And I think most of the people, even who know this stuff, don't do that in their daily basis. So I think that the good general rule is to eat at least one small serving of fermented foods a day. Might be a spoonful of sauerkraut in the side of your regular dish. You can find it everywhere, unpasteurized. So you want to have those good bacteria still intact there. But this is kind of the basic stuff that was part of our food culture for a long time. And if you go to Russia, for example, they still have this routine that basically every dish starts with a small fermented, serving.
Vodka.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's another thing. But I think that this is really a key thing that we need to do constantly. So it's not just the probiotics during the vacation, but to do these kinds of things regularly.
No brain, no gain, guys. Pain.
One example, or if you go back to the other slide, if you don't feel, no, okay.
Revenge.
Okay, let's go back.
Yeah, if you don't feel good when you eat sauerkraut or take probiotics, you might have bacterial overgrowth in your upper intestine or the duodenum. So that might be a problem. So if you get like burps and a lot of gas, you might actually have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So I've met people who take probiotics, they feel bad. So that might be the reason you would have to then research for it. Like a breath test for methane and what's it in H2.
No pain, no gain. I mean, test your shit. So
To summarize it
They're
out.
good.
yeah. I mean, light. I see the light.
Maestro, musica.
I see the light. Vitamin D, I mean, that's like an essential thing that's always recommended. If you supplement on something, take your vitamin D. And that's essential because all around our body, we have these vitamin D receptors. And the vitamin D receptors, they basically activate some of these sleeping immune system cells. You have to have vitamin D circulating in your bloodstream at that point to activate them so that they can do their work. But if your vitamin D level is low, these guys continue sleeping and nothing really happens. And these intruders, they can walk in and cause all kinds of havoc while they are sleeping. So it's important to have it circulating all the time. And I mean, the main source is of course sun, which you have plenty in Finland, and fish and mushrooms. And milk. What is there? There's some milk there. Yeah.
There's one case I wouldn't take vitamin D if you have overactive immune system. That you can find out if you measure the vitamin D, which is normally measured like the 25 OHD, and then you compare it to 1.25 OH2D. It's called calcitriol. If that one is high, but the 22 OHD is low, then you have problem with the vitamin D receptor, and then taking enough or too much vitamin D, it's gonna even get worse disease.
Yeah, light. Vitamin D activates more healing genes than any other known substance, basically. So that's that's necessary for our health. And I think that's one of those things that you want to measure at least once every winter in here, because that's not something that you can overlook. Really easy to measure.
Yesterday we had a bunch of mushrooms that we went collecting them and we ate some chanterelle, and mushrooms are pretty interesting. If you dry them in sunlight, they actually increase in vitamin D content. So if you collect mushrooms, it's a good idea to hydrate them, not in a dehydrator, but in sunlight, especially shiitake.
Yeah, it takes like 50 times the amount of vitamin D2 in 48 hours. So it's pretty significant.
So eat your shrooms. There's a lot of like shrooms out there. And not just for the vitamin D, but also for as immunomodulators, right?
Yeah, I think these are kind of what I said, these are food for your immune system, and pretty kind of in soft way. So most of the active ingredients or compounds in here are not like alkaloids or something that basically just puts the pedal to the metal, but these are more kind of like complex sugar molecules that are building blocks for your immune system to adapt to different kinds of situations. But this is where the action has been actually for a long time, and where many of the drugs have been synthesized from. So, for example, cordyceps, shiitake, turkey tail, there was this polysaccharopeptide that was extracted from this mushroom, and it was used as a main cancer medicine for a long time under a brand name of Crestin. So these are actually pretty powerful kind of factories of very different molecules than, let's say, plants. And in a way I see it pretty clearly that if we want to, make a good immune system towards life, so bacteria, viruses and all that, we need to also fight with life that's more intelligent. And as a kind of organisms, mushrooms and bacteria have been here much longer than plants or mammals. So I think there's so much intelligence on the cell walls of these types of organisms that we need to take a deeper look into.
I had a pretty
long question over here, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You need a mic.
As far as I know, the D in mushrooms is D2 when it's
Yes.
D3 in fish.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to be converted into D3, but it's not that efficient. So that's why the sunlight is like the main source.
They both work, but D3 has a longer half-life in our body, so that's why it's better. But they both work in the same way, so there's no difference in kind of effect.
Yeah,
in sense.
okay, they say about 3 that in 16 hours it starts to be away from your body. How about this? You said mushrooms are faster, or D2 is faster.
Yeah.
What about the sun? Is it also this 16 hours?
No, it's much longer, and even D3 it's for weeks in your system. So
Yeah.
So it's no use to take D3 like 10 micrograms per second hour.
No, it's actually would be more sophisticated to take it like 2 to 3 times per week, and a bit higher doses. So that's more than you take every day.
And sometimes
doses.
like really take an attack dose of getting it high enough and then maintaining it. So there's many things there.
Some research on this.
Yes.
I don't ask which one, but I just ask is there research?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So with sun there is other benefits than vitamin D. We emphasize only vitamin D. In medicine somehow we have this simplistic approach to just reduce everything to one thing. But it also sunlight breaks down some of things in our skin layers that was recently no more medicinal mushrooms to that lady. So or maybe we take some chaga or reishi. Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Stand-up show.
This is a real audience interaction. There's a good TED talk about vitamin D.
Good one.
Nice one.
Yeah, but these are kind of the big guns in this field, and I think that most of the people haven't heard about these. We have heard about the culinary mushrooms, but there is this whole category of medicinal mushrooms that are often actually polypores. So you can show the image of reishi mushroom, which is a huge thing in Asia. This is basically as big as, for example, ginseng or gynostemma, which are the top herbs in traditional Chinese medicine and those systems. But these are pretty well studied herbs. And they have really long history, and I think that there is a lot of things that we will find out from these. And as I said, for example, the study in Nature that was published a few weeks ago was particularly from reishi. So this is one of the main herbs that I, for example, have used for years.
Olli, on the other hand, he just uses cold ice blocks.
A lot.
Yeah, I mean, in the summer when we were writing the book, we usually like to go to a summer cottage and stay there over a weekend. That's how we do the book. No schedule, no emails, nothing, just working on this stuff. And Olli was wearing in the middle of the summer these golden vests, gold vests, whatever, ice packs basically cool around his skin to the level that he was almost getting like burns out of using that. And then the winter came and he was just spending hours in the water, and I was like, whoa, so what's going on there?
Well, it's a hormetic stressor. So that's good for your immune system, good for your nervous system, good for the parasympathetic nervous system. It's also good for creating this brown fat adipose tissue that Ben talked about this earlier today. And that's actually metabolically active. So it actually uses your white fat tissue.
Fat that burns fat.
Yeah,
not
so
just
that's
MCT oil,
cool.
but this brown fat you want to have.
Yeah, and it feels good. If you get used to cold, you want to go there because you get this good feeling of it. Absolutely. So for example, every morning I take a very cool shower, maybe 5 minutes, and then I dip my head into very cold the sink and hold my breath there for like as long as I can. 95 seconds is required.
That's why you're late from meetings sometimes.
Yeah. Stuck in the water.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys like who can, just do almost superhuman things. There is monks who basically they just do meditation in such a way that they have wet towels and then they go to a river and they do a specific breathing technique called Teemu, and they just breathe until the towels are warm and dry, and then the meditation is done pretty much. And Wim Hof, I think he's a Dutch guy, he promised to teach anyone. Anyone can learn this skill after his 2-week course, spend an hour in ice cold water and not die out of doing it. So we can adapt to our environments, and it can be extremely helpful. So we all can become Yodas or Jedi Masters or whatnot by just paying attention to the holistic way of looking at life and how this system works and how to influence it and how to stimulate it, not too much, but in a balanced way. If you go overboard, that's not good. If you do too little, that's not good. So being Yoda or whatever Zen master is really about balance, finding
the right balance. I wouldn't go too crazy with the technology. It's good to get the information about yourself, but also, as Ben told, he's not using any of this, which I'm using at the moment. If you know yourself, you know what's good for you, you know how your body functions, you know how your mind functions. You don't need technology then. You are the technology yourself. But you can use it to get there to a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we have a few minutes for comments. So, thank you very much at this point.
You want to get the mic?
Hi. Talking about vitamin D and getting enough of it. Have you understood what is the difference between ingesting vitamin D versus receiving vitamin D from a sun source? So either direct sun or versus being like in a sun booth. are you aware of, that's question one, are you aware of the quality that one is getting in relation to where should I get it from and how much should I get and how much is enough? And then on the other hand, other point number 2 is relating to the sun. I'm actually partly allergic to the sun. So for that, I can be actually in the sun for a certain amount of time. But if I get to a certain amount of time of being too much on a consistent basis, there is the effect that with EPP or erythropoietic porphyria, that what happens is I start to feel these different sensations as if it's overheating or kind of a, what do you call it? Like a tingly sensation as well. So in some way it's also kind of an indication of saying perhaps I've got too much vitamin D.
Absolutely.
So in some way what is considered as then being too much and having too much
Yeah,
vitamin
we are getting
D.
into some technical things here, but when you put sunscreen on, you don't get vitamin D absorbed as effectively. It's sort of almost what it does. It shuts down some of your natural protective mechanism, which is when your skin burns.
It shuts down the melanin production.
Yeah, it's telling you that, hey, you've been in the sun too long, so now we are using these hacks so that we can stay in the sun longer and get the nice tan. But that might be not a good idea for some other reasons. And that's like, I mean, the studies are still out there to go deep enough into it. But like I mentioned earlier, the sun has also other effects than vitamin D itself. I also read studies that you get like serious overdose of vitamin D when you're in the sun, like 10,000s of IU, basically in one dose, 30,000, just by being exposed 15 minutes on the midday to direct sunlight. But this is a fat-soluble vitamin, so once you get it too high, it can be sometimes hard to get down.
But I think that if you get it straight from the sun, there are several other mechanisms that are not related to vitamin D production that are really fascinating. Whether it was that you get elevated levels of these beta endorphins, or you get kind of nitrogen stored on your skin that is then how do you say, absorbed as a nitric oxide to cardiovascular system, and that has beneficial effect. So there are other things, not just the vitamin D, that are coming from the sun that are not coming from the bottle. And that's a pretty big thing. And I think that if you want to get actually good kind of protection, there are things like astaxanthin and these fat-soluble kind of super strong antioxidants that protect your skin from the inside out. And that's one of the things that I get a lot of feedback from people who are taking like few weeks before they go to, you know, Thailand or whatever, and they don't get burned. And I find that really fascinating, kind of specifically protecting the skin cells.
I like to also use just coconut oil on my skin because that has a UV protection 6. Yeah, that's already pretty nice. And
I would add here, sunlight does so much more. So if you have an opportunity for sunlight over vitamin D supplements,
just don't be stupid.
Yeah.
That's a general. Nobody
like 15,
is in the
20
sun
minutes.
too long. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
you don't have to be like a color of a crab or.
That's why we work when it's summer, and when it's winter we travel. Opposite.
Sun
what
also
Finnish
affects the circadian rhythms, circadian patterns of different hormones, body systems. So it's important to have at least some sunlight.
Yeah.
On the same topic, can you say something about artificial sources of UVA, UVB? There are like therapeutic lamps used for at least skin conditions.
I think they definitely have a value for skin conditions, and they are also, you do produce small levels of vitamin D even from the kind of regular office lamps, but the amount is not that great. But if you have those type of things that you go into the chamber that has UV lights in there, that's one way to get kind of more beneficial forms of these nutrients that we talked about. So I would consider that to be better option rather than take it in as a supplement. But of course that's pretty expensive for most of the people and so on. But if you have resources for that, I would definitely go in that direction.
All right, I think we are pretty much done here. We're going to be around and for the party, definitely.
Yeah, sorry.
So thank you very much, my colleagues. I have a few words to tell the audience here. So
Thank you.
Thank you for attention.